Hey guys, welcome back to the Tough Love Podcast with Dr. John O'Connor. Today's guest, Eric Giglione, entrepreneur, world traveler, and good friend. Eric, welcome to the podcast.
It's good to be here, John. Real excited to be here.
So, Eric, Andrea had brought your name up last summer, and I believe to the world traveler end, you were actually on your way to Italy or something or other.
Right. The Amalfi Coast.
I was kind of looking through whenever I see a guest or somebody, and we had actually met at the Ford Athletic Club. I like to see their background, and yours was impressive. And then I think we started following each other on Instagram, and I could kind of see your imprint with regards to like your daily stoic approach and your 2-minute drill, if you will, and the depth of you with regards to being very purpose-driven, if you will, about what you do and the intent you push towards everything from your commitment to your friends to business, family, and life in general. So let's give you the mic and talk a little bit more about where that started.
So I think where it all started is when I was a little kid, I was always inspired. I thought I was going to be a rock star. I picked up a pair of drumsticks. We had a family band. It was incredible. We used to open up the garage, Comac, Long Island, and entertain the whole neighborhood. And I was so dedicated to it. I would win talent shows, etc. And I would begin to experience success at that level, meaning I was a little kid, pair of drumsticks. I became great at it. I would work at it morning, noon, and night. My parents knew that was the only thing I wanted to do. So I think that's where it all started, because I achieved a certain level of success very early. And I saw that hard work, dedication, going through these grinds and really perfecting the art of whatever I was doing would happen. And so that's where it started. And then my family would struggle. My mother had cancer. My father had a stroke at 42 years old, became paralyzed. We lost our home. I lived in the back of a van. I was homeless, as you could say, showering on the beaches in Florida. I left Comac, Long Island. I was getting into trouble. I thought I was going to be a rock star. So I grew my hair.
And I can see that.
You know what I'm saying? We did things, okay, Joe? We smoked weed before it was legal, stuff like that. And we ventured out to other areas. I'm not going to say it for the podcast. But I found myself going down the wrong
path.
track.
Yeah.
And I was having the wrong friends. And my mother couldn't deal with it because she was dealing with a husband who had been paralyzed. And so I was one of 3 boys, and she couldn't handle it all. And so I finally decided, let me get out of here. And I left. And I lived in the beaches and back of a van, homeless. And that's where I discovered that I really loved people. And so I would enter talent shows and dance contests to hustle, to make money. I would sell jewelry door to door, art. Do anything to hustle to make a buck. And so I began to learn the importance of hard work. I think I did it, throughout. And then I had to find some good mentors. And so
early on.
Very early I found Zig Ziglar.
Okay.
Ziggy was my man. I would play his tapes. I would listen to him. Here I am, 18 years old, motivated, telling me I can dream. You can have anything you want in life if you'll help other people get what they want.
Yeah.
And that really resonated with me. And so, because I hadn't had any advantages, I feel, college, etc., money coming from a family where they could, give you a heads up, a start, I just grabbed on to some of these people and I would listen to them, like really listen to them. And I would take their courses. Today, it's available all over for free online. People can grab anything they want, learn anything they want. You can become anything you want to be, and you don't have to spend a nickel. I used to get in my car, drive, go to hotels where they were. They would sell their tapes and their books, and you would listen to them for, half the day, whether it was Tony Robbins, who I went to, loved Tony, fell in love with him. So I really began early in life with the simple fact that I believed that I could be somebody. And then I would find these mentors who would, water those seeds, and I would study success. I would study, why are some people so wildly successful? Why are you here? And others who started with you in school are still trying to figure it out. And so success leaves clues. I would find those who were successful and then really, really listen to them and humble myself. That's, I
Agreed.
think that's...
And it's funny because I would say I touched on Zig Ziglar a little bit, but I really immersed myself in Tony Robbins. And I tell people all the time, the Tough Love podcast started, for me, the idea during COVID. I was dealing with some really bad injuries. I was dealing with just work and life burnout, and I was physically and mentally broken. And I was trying to reprogram myself to get back to, but not only get back to, because I knew I had to evolve, because whatever it was I could feel it doing it. Like about every 10 years, I was burning out. And I started to jump into, again, because I think they all have that same premise of the power of suggestion. In other words, if you believe you can, you will.
NLP, Tony calls it, right? Neuralistic programming.
Yeah. And so when you talk about all these different things, simultaneously, because I was in a pretty dark place, I had jumped into Eckhart Tolle, and I was going and I was going like page for page with people. And it's funny because what I found was, and I grabbed a line from Andy Elliott, and I text with him often, much like you like Zig. I love Andy Elliott. For me, I'm intense. I'm a gym rat. He's one of those guys that says, like, I won't read a book. I'll read a page 1,000,000 times. Yeah. Something that inspires and empowers me, and I will turn that page into an empire. And, with Eckhart, I found myself, and again, the funny thing about it is, and I've had this conversation with so many people that have gone through, like, that reconstruction mode, self-reconstruction. It's like you don't even remember it when you're in it, which is the most surreal part. No. And, and I'm sitting there saying, and he was always talking about the present, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, presently this sucks.
Exactly.
And I'm sitting
you didn't want to be in that moment.
Yeah, and I'm like, presently I would like to have a do-over.
You don't want to be there.
I'm like, could you please switch places, And when I started channeling through the Tough Love podcast, talking about musicians, I had David Bryan on from Bon Jovi. And I started realizing that the success that goes on, so picking it up from there, the one thing that I would say is that when I was looking at these different guests and I was amazed with their web of success, it's much like what you said. It was the web that they built was hard work, consistency, purpose-driven, and a relentless pursuit of wanting to be an individual best. But what I loved the most, and you said that, Ziggy said it, which I love, and I hope this turns out to be a little real inside of our podcast, is by lighting the candle, and this is something I picked up from marrying a beautiful Jewish woman, is by lighting someone else's candle and helping someone else. It is amazing how success comes back to you 5-10-fold by doing so.
There is no success without it. Why is Jeff Bezos, how do you say his name?
I always screw that up. I thought it was Bezos.
Yeah.
You get to that many billions, I think you call it whatever.
Bezos, if I'm not saying your name correctly. But why is he the wealthiest man in the world? There's one simple reason. And if you study anyone and everyone who has extreme financial influential success, Warren Buffett, all these people, the reason that they have it is because they serve more people than others. Amazing. The more people we serve, the more reward we get. Why is Jesus Christ still at the center of controversy for the entire human race? Who sold better Christianity than Jesus himself? Listen, either he was the greatest salesman that ever lived. I've always said either he's the greatest salesman,
Tony Robbins may have walked on
or
fire,
he really was the Son of God, and I choose to believe he was the Son of God. Come on, so where's his influence? How many people are part of Christianity today? Billions. So when I think about what you're saying and I think about your life and the people you serve and the people you've touched, your success is directly, and mine, linked to how many people we serve.
100%.
And so what I learned throughout is don't focus on me. Don't focus on me. Focus on the people that I am with. I sat at kitchen tables, thousands of them my whole life, selling life insurance. Imagine sitting at a kitchen table with families, husbands and wives, who have children. They have no life insurance. And you know that dude dies. That family's in the hole. Without his paycheck, they're going to lose the house. They're going to lose everything. Yeah. I would walk into homes with that on my shoulders versus I got to get in here and sell life insurance. I walked in there knowing that I had a mission, a purpose to really protect this wife or husband. If he was the stay-at-home dad, I want life insurance on you, honey. The wife, if she's the breadwinner.
Sure.
Because without the money coming in, let's face it, I've always said, why be successful when you can be significant? Success is easy. Anyone can be successful. Follow the success formula, you'll be successful. But that's limiting. Why not be significant? Do what you do with significance, and the world will say, I like it, I'm buying.
I want that.
You know, it's not because I'm doing it because I want to make money, though I certainly know that there's a reward for me. Come on, we're human. So I'm always doing something for me. You always do something for you. That's human. If I'm really, really enhancing the life of the person that I'm with and making a difference in their life, I'm good. I'm going to be successful.
100%.
And that's where I started to see the extreme success come for me. I started out with just me as a salesman, and I ended up having hundreds and hundreds of people working for me all over the East Coast. And the reason was because I cared about their success, and I developed leaders, people who knew how to do this also, how to forget about you, be selfless, care about that guy.
I saw you on a recent, I guess it was an event, and they were recognizing you, I think nationally, and it was pretty impressive. It was in the last couple weeks, months.
Yeah, it was my, quote, retirement, semi-retirement dinner.
Yeah, it was impressive.
It was sweet. It was sweet.
You don't realize, and that's the one thing I would say what's awesome with the podcast is that when you get guests that really do have a life of servitude, and then they're successful on top of that, you get to appreciate that mindset of abundance, especially when you already get to successful. The object now is what you expand your reach by pulling other people in. Sure. And when you can do that, that's legacy style, you know.
Big time. People ask me, how do you feel about legacy? Well, if you're young, remember, you got to create one. So keep working, create the legacy. Don't think about your legacy. But my whole feeling on it always was pretty simple. I'm going to be the best at what I do, period. I'm going to practice. I'm going to get up early. I'm going to stay up late. I'm going to role play that presentation over and over and over and over until it is perfected, because I'm a public speaker. And when you're speaking publicly to lots of people, you need to be comfortable with what you're talking about, and they need to feel like you're connected to them individually. That in itself was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this?
Let me jump in. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say that right there from Eric. It's not what you say, it's how they feel about the words you chose.
That's it.
It's
That's
powerful.
It. Well, people won't remember most of what you and I say. They will remember, though, how we make them feel.
Yeah, it's huge.
And if we can make people feel loved, respected, cared for, I think they'll give us anything. You know,
1,000%.
people will give you everything, and I will give you everything, and we will give each other.
You know, it's funny when I'm coaching practices, and obviously the pain points become, the doctors want to continue to give everything of themselves, but they want to be compensated, right? And it's scary how the American healthcare system is failing certain verticals of medicine. And the one common thread that I try to tell them is, guys, I'm an outlier. I am very good at what I do. But if you watch how many times I offer a free healthcare session, you experienced it, I said, and people are like, why? I go, because genuinely, there's nothing better than someone saying, he cares. And that transcends your profession. That's the energy that you project or want to project and should project. Because to me, at the end of the day, it's how you're remembered.
Yep. And my faith, Doc, is a huge, huge part of it. My faith being that I understand how this whole system works out here. This is a spiritual existence. Even though we're in the physical world, it's spiritual. As you give, so it shall be given back to you. That's a piece of scripture that I not only know, but I know it works 100% of the time. Yeah. As you give, so it shall be given back to you, good measure, pressed down. So if I want to become a billionaire,
gotta give a lot.
I better be hanging around some billionaires, because they think differently than millionaires. If you're a millionaire and you're hanging around hundredaires, get the hell out of the room with the hundredaires and go find the millionaires to hang around, because they're going to think differently.
Yes.
I always hung around people smarter than me.
Agreed.
That was what attracted me to you right away. I view you as a lot smarter than I am. You have a very high level of education. You've done a lot more than I've done. I've lived a very beautiful, amazing life in my world, in my universe. And yeah, I'm the GOAT in my little universe here. But you're a lot smarter than I am. And every time you speak, I listen to you. So humility also. So when I learned success, and then I lined it up with, we'll call it spiritual principles out there that govern this universe. You just can't escape them. People think the bad guy's getting away with anything. He's not. He gets away with nothing. Do right. work hard, care about people, do what you do with great passion, be purpose-driven for it. You know, right now I started an AI company because I see how AI is a tsunami.
Yeah.
And if you're not in the space of AI in your business, you're going to be left behind. So, you know, as you get older, you tend to fall into this trap of doing things the way you've always done them because you're comfortable. I'm comfortable being uncomfortable. I want to be uncomfortable. And AI made me very uncomfortable. And then I began to look into that space and I brought it to my company.
It's
and
remarkable.
Now, when I retired, I then turned around and all of these people who were owners like me, they're my friends. They're also now my clients because I'm bringing them AI. So I'm serving them more people. So I expect that in the years ahead, just like what's happened in the years past, that doors will open for me because I'm serving even more people. I think people just have to focus on serving and helping. And
I'm excited about that. And, you know, it's funny you brought that up, and it's amazing how in the last, I'm going to say 4 to 6 weeks, I have literally been kind of practicing the secret and put it up on my vision board that I need to meet somebody in AI because I train on it every day, right? I go at the hardest one and I say, okay, give me the 15 objections, give me a Rhodes Scholar, give me, you know what I mean? Like, I want to go, let's throw down, you know, of objections for why they don't want to get involved in this, what's going on, I don't believe in it, what's the science, whatever it is. And I'll do that like in a speed mode for 30 minutes where I'll get through 10 questions in 2 minutes, and I'll do that 15 times. And then I'll kind of grade my performance, and then I'll look back, and then I'll kind of read them backwards. I'll read my answer, then I'll read the question. And I keep like blend it forward, reverse. And when I get on the call with my clients, the doctors, they're like, but you speak about it so easy. And I said, you know, I was so intrigued by that comment. I said, you got to do hard things daily and do them first. You know, we're going to go to comfort because it's easy.
Yeah, it's
all
easy.
Right. I want you to get in that cold water. Yeah. Okay. I want you to get into things that kind of scare you a little bit. And once you conquer that fear of that unknown, then all of a sudden that becomes your strength. And, you know, to me,
you become unstoppable at that point.
Yes. Yeah. And what I said, like our disconnect, and I was on the phone with one of the owners of the company that, you know, I'm their lead national sales guy. I said, you know, our lead generation is underperforming. And I would like to jump into that. I firmly believe that it's got to be AI. And I also firmly believe that to grow, our owners have to let go a little bit.
Always.
And
let go of the old.
And they have to like get on the same page and say, hey, listen, our vision board is not to talk about the technology.
Yeah.
Our vision board is to reach the broken souls and spirits that need to be helped. Yeah. That they started this healthcare path to help people, but they're down on their luck because it's not working for them. And we want to show them it didn't fail you. You just haven't found the right way yet. Yeah. We're here to show you the way. And when I said it to them today, I said, they're like, you know, you're starting to sound like, you know, like a philosopher. Yeah. I said, no. When I get in front of these people, I'm a practitioner. I experience that. You know, I am a 7-figure company, and I have always will, and I will always be, but I don't want to be a 7-figure company. I want to be a 10-figure company. And, you know, 7 figures mean you can jump into 6 real quick. Yeah. And I've been there too as of late, you know, because, you know, I also don't want to be governed by somebody else. No. Right, you don't want to be told what to do. I can tell you're, you know, having that rock star package to you. You have a life by design,
purely,
and you know, and that's what I am evolving into. And so when people say, you know, why are you working so hard on the coaching? I love it. Yeah. And I can design it out. And then once I understand that technology, I could be in this virtual room, and whether I'm teaching him how to scale and get out to so many people to do what they do, I can sit there and inspire doctors and give them the words they need and the power and the tonality on how to deliver that purpose-driven style of business and change the landscape of their life. You know, but tell me more about this AI. This is intriguing me. So you were talking about games. I know we were talking about it, but you were a little bit in pain when I had you on the table. So it's very cool. You've kind of made it a brain training system for sales, right? Like where it's kind of made it fun.
So I became a great salesperson because I role-played, practiced before I went into an actual live. You watch Michael Jordan, Curry, Steph Curry. How much do they practice?
10,000 hours.
They don't stop. So I role-played a lot. And that's how, when I went live, whether it was public speaking, individual, I'm ready. I got every base covered. I handled every objection. I already know what the worst case, I got it all. I'm ready to go. I'm relaxed. Yeah. What this AI product does is it allows sales professionals and sales leaders to role play and practice, not with a human, but with a bot. And this bot is MLT, machine learning. It keeps getting better and better and better. The more my people talk, it keeps getting better and sharper. And it's empathetic. You'd swear you're talking to a human being. And you got to role play your presentation from start to finish. And it's going to evaluate you. It's going to score you in a variety of areas. And it's going to give you coaching tips like you've never received before.
Love it.
So now you're removing the human element of a leader or manager training somebody, and it's a human problem. They're not hearing them, and the guy is. It's just too much emotion. We remove all the emotion. You role play with this sucker. This sucker's going to nail your ass. If you don't follow that script and you don't do it the way you're supposed to, it's going to hang up on you.
Yeah.
So it's like going through a simulator or boot camp on your own using AI.
Yeah, walking the line, no less.
Walking that. And that has revolutionized training. It allows our managers to now do other things, develop relationships with your people, spend time there, spend time actually in live situations with the people you're training. Show them how to close deals.
How do they measure accountability? Obviously, you want everybody to do it. There's a software, can we look in if we own the software to see how many hours,
all of it is documented.
Awesome.
Everything is data driven.
Got it.
Have you seen Moneyball? Of course you did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Everything is data, right? So we measure it all, and we look at, and now
so there's no surprise when somebody's crushing sales and they're crushing the software. They realize they're getting better.
You crush the software, we know you're going to crush sales. It's a foregone conclusion.
Got it.
And we pretty much can take it to the bank. And now
can you use it for anything?
Avatars. I'm about to have avatars. It's all money. Okay, what money can't buy, more money will. But some people, price point. AI is still. It's starting to come down in price. So now we're able to bring it to the masses. That's why it's going to be a tsunami. Just like the cell phone in the beginning was unaffordable. Well, AI, you can get ChatGPT now for free, but there's other versions that are much better, and you're going to pay. So the world of AI, whether we like it or not, 2 years from now, this world is going to look different. Everything is going to look different. Jobs are going to be gone, millions and millions of jobs. People are going to have to learn how to get along with the bots and AI. You let the genie out of the bottle. AI, knowledge is neutral now. All I do is dig deep now into the AI world. There was a time when knowledge was power. If you had the knowledge, you were the most powerful guy in the room. 2 years from now, zero. It's almost zero now.
Yeah.
Because AI, you're going to have engineers
engineering
that are robots. So you ask me about AI. It's the most exciting and scary thing ever created by man is AI, because it's learning. It keeps getting smarter and smarter and better and better and better and better. And it's like those scary movies that the robots take over. So people have to realize that the genie's out. We got to learn how to get along with them. We got to learn how to get along with the bots. We got to learn how to work with them. And dangerous, because people who are scamming and stealing from us now on our credit cards, AI, it's the worst ever.
They generate a brilliant scheme in 0.8 seconds. It takes those guys 20 years.
This is why recently I was listening to a podcast. The guy said that AI is more dangerous than a nuclear war. And he went on to explain why. How if it goes into the hands of the wrong people, we could have literally human destruction on levels we don't even know about. So on one end, like many, I'm scared because I could see where it's going. And on another end, I see cancer being cured. I see diseases that we now battle with being eradicated. I see us as a human race evolving at levels and paces. The next 10 years, we're going to have more growth than in the past 50 combined.
Yeah, it is wild.
That's just my thought based on everything I'm seeing, everything I'm hearing, everything I'm reading, about AI. And I'm using it now, and I'm providing it as a service to all of my friends and people. And we're in the middle of creating some more AI stuff. But you know what I love about it from a business point of view? Can I get business now?
Yeah.
Can I get greedy for a minute here? What I love for it as a business model is that it is a subscription. So you're going to pay every month to access. For the rest of your life, you're going to pay to access this, and it's going to keep upgrading just like your cell phone does. Do you pay every month for your cell phone? Are you used to it? Are you going to stop paying for it? Once you start subscribing to AI and you start using it, from the business side, there's no business model like it. The multiples on the company that I'm building right now, I'm told, are 20 times more than your average multiple because of subscription-based. So I'm bringing AI to you not just from a philosophical and where the world is headed and what AI is going to do to change the world, but from a business point of view. It's a sweet business model.
And I think the funny thing about it is, and that's what I was telling them today, is my goal is to create, and may not have to, I may just be able to jump in with you, is take what I teach, put it in AI, much like Andy.
Yes.
Andy created it.
I would love to do that with you.
And
let me give you to my bots. Let me get what's in your head. Let's get it into the bots.
And then the practices.
And the bots are just going to get smarter and smarter.
Yeah.
That's what we do. That's what you definitely want to think about that.
Well, I definitely, because again, when we talk about monthly recurring revenue, you can touch more people and make 10x the money, and you don't have to sit there and fleece them, because now it's time and rate that I'm away from that, versus now you all can share me. If you have access to it, you have Access Health, with AI intelligence on patient communication.
Think about it.
Technology,
right?
And again, when you're talking about technology or integration of cash services, there's a level of confidence in swag. I am always drawn to, and since I was, in the nightclub business in my 20s, I was always drawn to the guys that were 40 or 50 that were super successful, that owned the restaurant groups, or they owned all the nightclubs. And my guys were hanging around, getting banged out. And they're like, OC, why are you hanging with these old dudes? I go, they've been doing this for 20 years. They're still relevant, and they're wealthy as fuck. And they're looking like...
That takes humility. I think
and
what
they never
lacks,
got that. I'm like,
right,
I said, I was like,
Yeah, that takes a level of humility to where you don't see yourself when you're listening and learning as less than, you see yourself more than, because I'm learning right now.
100%.
Whereas a lot of people, they have a reverse mindset. Like, oh, don't tell me what to do. I know what I'm doing. Sorry, pal, you don't. No, I've been doing this for 20 years. No, you've been doing it 1 year 20 times because you ain't learned a goddamn thing in fucking 20 years. I would sometimes nail people with that. They'd look at me like, are you kidding me? You just said that. Yeah, you're not fucking learning.
You haven't made a raise in 20 years. You're probably not doing something right.
Come on. This is not rocket science here,
and, the thing about it is, and I knew I would love this podcast today for these reasons. The thing about it is, where I see myself in the next year, and again, we launched Boost hormone optimization and anti-aging, which I love. Velocity will always be a place for me, and I started it with my wife, and I adore the memories. But it's time to evolve. It's time to take that healthcare model into something that we nationalize.
Absolutely makes sense.
And, because the thing about it is, I look back and say, I still have people to serve, but I want to serve the masses now. I want to be in the mix of AI and these different technologies, the same way that
you want to be significant. I feel you really do want to be significant.
Yeah. And I was sitting there and I watched these other people, watch Andy and these guys go up, and there's another guy that I enjoy. He's from Mexico. I think he's from Canada originally, but he's in the hotel industry. And this guy is the definition of giving. And I love it. It's almost like with what was that wonderful show where somebody's hardship, the family, like the dad died in war, and they build a home for them in a weekend, or they turn the house around. Extreme Makeover.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right. And it was always wonderful. They'd come in and they'd give them this gift. And
good story.
And, and this is what this guy was framing. And he goes, and he's got his little accent, and he's super cute dude. I'm like, you're living your best life, dude. You're 30 something. You got a good look. Don't get married for a while. Looks like you're going to enjoy your world. You'll be fine. You get married at 40. But more importantly, how generous.
Yeah.
And how kind. Yeah. And he's like, you watch me closely. And I said, yeah, I want to see if this is a rap or if this is real.
Real. Right.
And if this is genuine, or you're just that good, you're going to be remarkably successful. Yeah. And he smiled at me. He goes, you're watching that closely? I said, no, I'm learning.
There you go. Always a student.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Always a student.
So tell me this. It wouldn't be tough love if we didn't have some adversity. What would you say in your life, experiences, injuries, or anything, something that really hit home for you that made you appreciate that, and kind of tap into your inner Eckhart Tolle and whatnot? What would that moment have been?
So without pain, there is no growth. So let's just start there. I mean, I've learned through a lot of pain and suffering, like all humans, that's where you get the massive amount of growth. So I was given an opportunity to grow 22 years ago when I was hit head on a motorcycle, left for dead, became paralyzed from the waist down. They told me I'd never walk again. I had brain damage. I still have it. I still have nerve damage. So through all of that, through surviving, coming out of the coma, going into rehab, returning to work 2 years later, was probably the greatest growth years for me. Because prior to that, I was in the peak of my career. I was making many millions a year, making more than enough money, enjoying this incredible life. But it was always about more. Another car, another watch, another this, another that. You know, people would come to my house, they just wanted to come into my closet because my closet was the number one talked about thing. I had all those rotators, I had 500 suits, and, you know, my daughter would come in and say, well, Dad, you got about 20 pinstripe suits. Did you need that one? Yeah, but honey, look, this stripe is a little bit thinner than that one.
And it's red, and look at the stitching.
You know, it was, right? So you always have this more mindset. Like, that's what I had going on. I was more. And the accident just completely clarified that more is not what you want. What you want in your life, Eric, is purpose, love, meaning. And things don't bring that. You can buy all the things you want in the world. In the end, you come out, you're born with nothing, you leave with nothing. So for me, adversity has brought me that. Without adversity, I wouldn't be as aware, if you will. I wouldn't be as Eckhart aware, because Eckhart is right now one of my main mentors. He's all about stillness, quiet mind, being present. Yeah, that's where the power is. We know this. That's where your power is. Can you imagine Steph Curry or any professional athlete, or you when you're working on me? If you're working on me and you say, but you got to talk to your wife about the laundry or about this, where are you when you're with me? You are there. You are not anywhere but there. So without adversity, I don't think I would have learned these lessons. Without adversity and challenges, none of this would have been real for me. And so this is why I believe we don't really mature and make a difference till later in life, because we have to go through all of these things. Now, some people I've noticed, they didn't have to go through all of this shit. It just seems I had to. Okay, so I'm not going to complain. I'm just going to thank God that I made it through. So whenever pain happens, I don't look at pain the way most people do.
Agreed.
I don't look at it the same way. Without pain, there is no growth. When we're soft, I think the problem we have today is too many people are too soft. They're too thin-skinned. You try to correct them, and they look at you and they sue you. You son of a bitch, I'm trying to help you and you're suing me. It's a crazy world, because most people today are victims. They want to blame
Victim
somebody.
mentality. Yeah, I agree.
The model is, let's me blame somebody, you know.
And I couldn't agree with that more. I think the big thing that when you talk about being somebody that of influence, what is so critical is understanding that it's not about being liked, right? And I think when we were kids, you wanted to have the friends and they've come up with all these words, FOMO and this and that, and failure, missing out, and all these different things. But in reality, it's not even about being relevant. It's about being an inspiration.
Sure.
And getting outside of your comfort zone. And when people see you can thrive in that, it is amazing how that shift occurs. Yeah. You know, when, again, for me, I go through all my injuries. I was paralyzed as a kid. I fractured my skull. I broke my back. I had this knee. I fractured the femur and had a microfracture repair. And, you know, the injuries are endless. And, you know, and it was almost like every decade I had something
that would,
you know, I'm like, all right, I'm done. I said from 50 to 60, I'm taking a time out.
The good Lord has got some redirecting for you and me.
I would sit out by the fire pit in like 12-degree weather, and I'd be sitting there reading Eckhart Tolle, listening to it in my ear with the fire cooking, and the dogs would be sitting up there with me. Both were alive at the time, both my doodles, and I would chuckle because I'd be saying to myself, Eckhart, I need a break. I need like a solid 10-year run. And I will, if I can figure out that spiritual calm, I will help millions. And I will make such a cultural shift.
So you started making deals with Eckhart in your mind?
Well, you know,
I like
first I started with
I make deals with God all the time.
Listen, it started with Tony Robbins. Like, trust me, I went down the list.
I'm a deal maker. Let's go.
Yeah, you know, I was sitting there going, you know, and I remember the first time I cut a deal, and it was with God when I was paralyzed as a teenager.
Yeah.
And I remember saying...
Those are your best deals.
Yeah, I remember saying, hey, listen, you get me back on the basketball court, and you get me moving, and I can see life. I will do some amazing things. And, you know, it was amazing that in a short period of time, I was like, you know, it's happening. You know, I'm getting better. And, you know, moving different states, school, whatnot, that paper was out for years.
Sure.
And I could see it, and I wish I still had it to this day, because I remember writing this, you know, what's probably now what people would say is an affirmation, or like, you know, I wrote a story to myself. And, you know, And the powerful message was essentially, get me better, and I will take on other people's hardships. I will help them heal.
Yeah,
I will
carry the
absorb
pain
that,
of others.
and I'll be all right. And I think over the years, you kind of could lose your path a little bit and things happen. But I realized, especially when I went out to Andy Elliott during a pretty dark time, that it was super important that I get back on a purpose-driven life. And for multiple reasons, career-wise, we all like to hunt, right? As you said, you partially retired from one company. Brilliantly, you saw where AI was going. And how great to repurpose and take all of your comrades, and now they trust you, and now they've become clients, because here's the deal.
It's all divinely ordered.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, baby.
And I was blown away. I sat and I told you that guy when he was telling me that software that existed, and I go, that's a thing? And you go, yeah, that's a thing. And I go, this was the most amazing conversation. He goes, listen, I understand. Like, my friend Joe was like, you got to meet this guy, OC. Like, John is pretty sharp, and he's definitely trying to climb, and he's just missing a couple cogs in the machine, right. And it's going to be, it'll be a powerhouse if we get it right. And he said, well, listen, this is what I do. I created a technology that essentially says when life insurances time out, or every year the renewals come up, I know the policy amount, I know this, I know where they live, I know the yogurt that they like. We sell these to other people that can come in, and they know you haven't really attended these policies in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and you're out of contact with them. And then all of a sudden, an Eric Giglione superstar rolls in, buys these, and takes all these clients over. And I'm like, it's nothing that I do, but I was like, this is a thing. He goes, I sold this for $72 million. That's how much of a thing it was. I was like, he goes, you have no idea. In our industry, it happens all the time. And it's not really a dirty business. It's just, you get the people in close, and a lot of people go away because you just keep growing and growing and growing. But it wasn't so much that. I said, how brilliant. He goes, listen, I'm a Wall Street guy. What we were looking at was, what business has the highest re-up rate? And it was life insurance.
Yeah.
So what we did was we just pointed the technology at it, and then kind of we're think tanking it and said, what can we do? Well, people steal things all the time. We're not stealing it in a way that we're hurting the client. We're coming in and giving them a resurgence of customer service, and somebody else is winning. Now, I saw it live, and we were at a 60th birthday a few weeks ago. And a friend of mine that's a very good guy, very smart, and he does everything. He's financial services, but some of them were whole life policies or whatever. And he lost a monster. And I was so distraught for him. And he goes, John, you don't understand. Like, this policy, I don't know how you know the industry better than me. He goes, every year I get, say it was $380,000 or $450,000 I get from this one. It's gone. They won't talk to me. It's already gone. It's already out of, I guess they pull it out of your account, whatever. And now, look, I'm good for my retirement. I have made more money than I'll ever need. The kids are good. He goes, but he chuckled. He goes, wait, my wife spends? That 400's going to hurt.
That hurts. That hurts.
And I was laughing because when I tell you he was irate, and I said to myself, I go, you know what? And it was funny because I went right into my Andy Elliott. I said, well, tell me about it. Let's reframe it. Let's walk back. Look, we're looking for the keys or your eyeglasses or something. Let's find where the mistake was and correct it. So when he told me, I said, he's telling me this story, and in his head, it was so present. He goes, and when the husband died, and much like you said, I wanted to make sure it was taken care of. I did a wonderful job. I set them up the accounts, did everything. And I honestly, it was so heartfelt. I said, well, I would have never left you. I go, and you just did this? He goes, it was 15 years ago. And then I said, well, Christmas cards, Hanukkah cards, whatever they, well, I haven't talked to her in 15 years. I said, oh, well, then you're expendable.
Exactly.
Because Andy said something that was amazing. And these guys, much like you said, you want to be with billionaires, hang with billionaires. You want to be a billionaire, you want to be mega millionaire.
Stop having millionaires, want to be a billionaire.
Yeah, and Andy said something, and I was like really taking notes on how his body language and the stuff that I'm sure he's taking from the Brad Lees and the guys that are even more successful than him. And he said that if you're not chasing, someone else is going to take what you want from me. If you come out of my circle, my round table, so to speak, I did not serve you. You just stopped having that FaceTime, and somebody else stepped into your light and stole your light. And so, and that was like, we were probably a few weeks removed from being at Andy's event in Arizona. And I said, listen, I don't want to say his name because I'm sure when he hears it, he's going to know I'm talking. I said, but this is what happened. You didn't have that FaceTime. And now with AI and stuff like that, there's no excuse. How many clients do you service? 100? You could utilize in our healthcare, it's Our Mind, or there's so many AI-based contact tools that You could speak to it for 2 weeks straight. It's going to sound just like you.
Yep.
You could be reaching out by phone, by email, by text, checking in. Eric, you okay? How's everything going? Love to get together for a lunch. You let me know when you're available. And if you can't, and you find out they send a wonderful thing, but they're busy or somebody passed, you send them a gift box.
It's people.
And again, what'd you say earlier? It's how you make them feel.
Period.
It goes, right?
When my sales reps today go into homes that I sold 30 years ago, many people, they remember me because I make sure that when I'm there, you're going to remember me.
100%.
I said, you may not like me right now. I'm going to tell you things you don't like. That's okay. I'd rather have you love me, hate me right now and love me later. Truth is the best
medicine.
Because guess what, John? You're going to die. And guess what? When you die, this beautiful family of yours is either going to look up to heaven and say, thank you for taking care of us, or they're going to look down and say, you son of a bitch. Why didn't you watch over us? But this is where I got a lot of my chutzpah, as we say, as the Jewish like to say, because I was trained by good people in the life insurance business. When you learn how to sell life insurance at kitchen tables to working class people, you've connected. Because this is the salt of the earth. These are the people that work for a living. These are the people that take care of the rest of us out here. And so, Elliot, the other big one for me has always been James Allen. We become what we think about. Period. Mic drop. Whatever you're thinking, that's what you become. You become what you think about all day long. Show me your thoughts, I'll show you where you're headed. You think you're going to win, you're going to win. You don't think you're going to win? Nah, you probably won't.
Agreed.
You think you're going to be, I'm in the gym working out at Fontainebleau because I was living in Miami and here back and forth for many years. And I was a member at the Fontainebleau at the gym. I had a personal trainer and I would put my Ferrari out front. They always took care of me there. I was very good to them. They were good to me, everybody. Always be good to people. Be generous with people. They'll take care of you. I've always learned that one. But this one guy didn't like it. He was a member there, and he was a very, 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 very successful guy. They tell me he was a billionaire. He's like, who's this guy with this freaking white Ferrari here taking my spot? So finally, he comes over to me after like a couple of weeks, and he said, so, that's your Ferrari out there, huh? He said, yeah. I said, yeah. He said, I want you to join me for lunch. I said, okay. Where are we having lunch? I want you to join me over at Prime 112. Me and my boys, we go there. We do it once a month. We do a lunch. You're a cool guy. I talked to so-and-so about you. Everybody likes you. You're a good guy. Come. Okay, I went. I pull up for lunch. Drivers driving Rollses.
Car
come
show.
on, it was stupid. It was like 30 million in cars just for them at Prime. And they go into the back of the room. You understand, I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. I'm just this little guy. So I walk in there and he introduces me to everyone. And I just sat there, didn't say a word the whole time. But they did come around to me. So, kid, what do you do? I told them a little bit of what it was just a couple of minute thing, not even. And the rest of the dinner, all I knew was $20,000 bottles of wine. Who knows what the hell the bill was. But this is every month these guys get together and they network and they talk and they're good friends. And I saw the power of that.
Yeah.
That was meaningful to me to see, that this guy has his network. And so I kept upgrading my whole life. I told my broke-ass friends when I was a kid, one day I'm going to trade you in for some rich friends. And so gradually over the years, I would just facilitate. I would naturally be drawn to people who made a difference, people who were successful. And the wild thing is I've never seen myself as that successful. I've seen myself as I've achieved a lot. I've done a lot, but I've never saw myself that way. Because ego is a very fragile thing. Got to be careful with that ego.
Yeah. And
Ryan Holiday, another mentor of mine these days. Ryan Holiday, ego is the enemy.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
ego is the enemy, man.
In everything I've done,
especially us men.
Yeah. Yeah. You damage the ego. It's amazing what it can do to you. If you let go of the ego, it's amazing how far you can go. And, it was funny when people said, why did you get into the bodybuilding realm? And I said, it's funny. To build my practice, I was a remarkable athlete. And so I had no idea coming out of the nightclub business that I knew how to throw a banger. I knew how to get celebrities, and whether they were hip hop or this or that, I would throw a party that people would be like, you had everybody from Denzel to Shaq to, Jermaine Dupri rocking in your spot. I'm like, yeah, it was pretty banging, right? And when I got home, it was time to become normal.
Yeah.
And I'm no longer significant.
You're not that.
And
Right.
you know,
Starry, everybody's looking at you. Yeah.
you know, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, this is humbling.
You know, it's funny you're talking about that, because my whole life I walked into a room and I was always, you know, someone that people look, oh, that's Eric Giglione, because you develop a name, a reputation. Yeah. But then I would go home and I realized, you know, I'm not all that.
Exactly. I used to tell people, and I knew when I was going home from Atlanta, we were at our graduation from chiropractic school, and I had my bodyguards. I had a guy in front of me, I had a guy behind the girls, and we're walking down, and I had two guys from Bad Boy Entertainment, and one of the moms, maybe it was my wife's best friend's mom, was saying, and I think my mother-in-law and the girls were out, and we were going into the bottom of this hotel to have dinner, and everybody's waving and this and that, and I chuckled because I think the one mom was like, how do you let him go out? And I was laughing. I could hear everything. Or I was like a cooler. I could hear every conversation. I watched which bartenders were stealing. I could see who was making money, who was dealing, who was going into the bathroom. Like I was that person. That's why I was very good at that business, right? Yeah. And I listened. And then as I was watching, I started looking and I said, you know, and I think I actually had said to her, I think her name was Toby. And I was like, you know, Toby, none of it's real. They want what I have. They could care less who I am.
Exactly.
They just want to be in this present moment right here. And if they're on the other side of that velvet rope, they'll do whatever they can. But the minute I'm not inside that velvet rope, I'm irrelevant.
So to be sober, to me, that's to be sober.
Yeah.
Be aware that, I'm on this side of the rope. That's why I am. Tomorrow I'm on the other side. So when I retired, right, before retirement, I was called up. Everybody wanted me to run their meetings. And when I retired and left, now, if I picked up the phone, they would love it. But the reason is I'm no longer in their space.
Yes.
I'm not in their space anymore. So I'm not, in their minds, relevant because I'm not in their space. That's not an ego. That's not me being, but no. Life has moved on. And
still climbing mountains.
That's why a lot of guys have a hard time retiring.
Yeah.
Because they're so attached to their work and to their job.
Their
it
identity
defines them. Their identity is, and the founder of my company, that was him. He struggled all the way to his death. He would go to the office all the way, 96 years old, because he didn't develop any other hobbies or friends or different things outside of work.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not knocking it. I mean, if somebody's passion is their work and they're making a difference, God bless them. I'm not going to judge that. But I didn't want to grow old and be defined by my business.
Yeah.
I wanted to be defined by someone who you could count on, somebody who's decent, somebody who is passionate, somebody who's chased the dream and got it. You could do it too, type thing. You know, ego. It's a very beautiful thing.
And I love that you said that. I teach the young docs that I have that I'm coaching. I said, you know, let's talk about your life portfolio right now. And they're like, what do you mean? How many kids? 2 or 3? How many days you working? 6. How many hours? 80. When do you have time for the gym? I said, you know, I was there, you know, and this is more of a recent thing. And don't get me wrong, like I'm coming out of it. There was a huge shift where it was millions of dollars lost. I said, but the great thing is I'm healthy.
Yeah.
And the 7-figure object is me. So wherever I go, I know it's coming with me. I said, but when the one thing I realized is that, and this is something I pulled actually from Alex Hormozy, is being able to recognize when a business is not serving you, and like the people that wouldn't let go of the career, that you have to let it go. And that could be relationships, that could be, you know, and, you know, that's really where we were at, that it was like, it was time to walk away and pivot. Not say walk away, but like pivot.
Pivot's a good word.
And, you know,
reinvent. They
and
say that we're going to have to reinvent 9 or 10, I forget the number, but the experts talk about reinvention of self.
And that's where I'm at right now. And I have to say,
I remember you telling me.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love being in this process.
It's a beautiful morphos. It's like you're becoming now.
Yeah. You know, it's like, you know, I guess a caterpillar gets to become a butterfly once. I feel like I'm going to do it about 7-8 times in my lifetime.
No, that's makes total sense because you want it.
Yeah.
Because it's what you think about. Here, are you thinking about? I always ask people, are you thinking about what you're thinking about? That's the question I like to ask.
Yeah.
Are you thinking about what you're thinking about? Because those thoughts are producing the life you see.
100%.
Like it or not. This is why James Allen, man, becomes what he thinks about all day long. As a man thinketh, so is he. So I think these basic, simple principles just resonated with me, and I lived them out. I tested them.
Yeah.
Motherfucker, I'm going to test your ass out. You think you say this is the way to go? I'm fucking. I
And it
like
worked.
this podcast. I can fucking curse once in a while. You can, yeah.
You know, it's funny, guys, you're here to hear. Just in case the podcast changes and I grab a co-host and Eric, it's going to become Thoughts Become Things. You heard it here first.
I like that one. Thoughts become things. So really, so stop and think about what the fuck you're thinking about, because that thinking, now can you change your thoughts? Can we change the way we think?
Tony Robbins, you can shift in a second.
But what's going to cause the change, though? A new direction, a new vision. So now we come to vision. How important is vision? It's without a doubt the central reason that we change or we morph. Why are you? Because you have a vision. And that vision will keep growing and growing and changing and morphing and becoming. Without vision, it was on my meeting walls, my biggest conference center. Without a vision, people perish.
Yeah.
Our vision is, and I posted our vision on the wall for everyone to sign and join our vision, make it yours also. So
Sure, yeah.
a collected vision, but on one end I love it, on another end it's very scary. I love people. Individually, I love people individually. I don't like people in groups because now they develop a group mindset instead of your own mindset.
Agreed.
And that's dangerous.
Yeah.
That's when I'm not big on people. But individually, everyone, I think 99.9% of people are good. They're good.
I would say most are cowards. There's only a few leaders, and the group
No doubt.
and the courageous are the few,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
and
they're
so you have
shepherds.
you
They're
have lion or sheep, and
Yeah, and we got to watch the take after the sheep, though. Got to be careful of these sheep. Come on, we got to take care of the sheep. We can't just pardon me, we can't piss on them and not be good to them. But most are sheep.
yeah.
So
The reality is, so when you get in those big groups, I can definitely, I find that to be a common thought that I'm like, when I attend these huge seminars, I see, and when I can break them down and isolate them, then I can kind of go into Navy SEAL mode. And I could do what I do as far as step back, detach, and understand. And I go into
good stuff. Yeah. Good stuff.
and people will say, why are you trying to get him isolated? I go, he's got confidence from those other 7 guys, and it's success by, association. He's accumulated nothing. If I can understand that or lost everything, then there's a chance that I can make that person a client. But if they're in there, they're not going to show their insecurities because of ego.
Right.
And they're going to posture that they're more successful than they are.
People's pride and ego is so often a huge part of how
Their failure, their limitations.
How they roll.
Yeah.
I don't care to be wrong. I don't need to be right. I need to be loved and I need to love. And that simply means that I have to put my ego in a certain space. It's good. Ego's good. Ego will drive. Ego changes the world. Come on, ego's good. But when ego goes bad, then you become narcissistic.
Yeah.
And now it's all about you.
I'll tell you a funny story for us aging population now that we're all 50 plus. I was in the gym today.
I'm 60 plus, 67.
This is it. But I mean, once you hit 50, who cares, right? I remember my one buddy that's he's 60 now. He goes, and we were 30 and 40. And he goes, once I hit fucking 50, who gives a fuck?
That's it.
You're
Who
old.
gives a shit?
Right?
Yeah.
So I chuckled, and I got in the gym and I had a photo shoot about 2 weeks ago, and I was peeled. I mean, just chopped.
I think I saw a couple of them.
And so
you're pretty sick.
So a guy rolls up, and I'm getting dressed and I have my hat on, and he's talking to me, and I'm listening, and I'm going, oh, he doesn't realize I'm got 20, 25 years on him. So I spun around and I was like, hey, thanks for the compliments. And I looked at him. I said, how old are you? He said, 22. I said, my son's 20. And I go, I'm going to be 52. And he's like, and I said, listen, I love that. And he says, my dad, I said, listen, I go, everybody picks a different path. For me, my pathway to success right now has nothing to do with lifting this iron. It has everything to do with the discipline wrapped around it.
Amen.
And that the results that come from it.
The discipline.
Is that when people say you're busy, that's an excuse.
Totally.
Get up earlier.
Totally.
You know, if you say you're tired, drink a cup of coffee. But if you're not going to suck it up, then you pick whatever path you want.
They don't want to own it. But
you could,
if I own it, then I got to do something. What you're saying is own your shit, right? Do something about it. You got, and that's what you do. You're very disciplined. It's quite obvious. But your example is more important than anything else of you. Your example, you can have the most eloquent voice, and you do. You're great at talking. I'm great at talking. We learn how to talk. But I think it's our lives that people ultimately will look at and either be inspired by or not.
Yeah.
When I see somebody that's very overweight, I feel bad, but I also think lacks discipline. I'm sorry, it's just, because I know I'm a little overweight. Why? I lack a little discipline. I love that frickin' pasta. I love that frickin' bread. I'm Italian. It's what I do. It's what I eat. My girl, who's here behind me, she wants me to stop drinking Coke Zero. I said, I have Coke Zero. That's fine. There's no sugar. Baby, you got to get rid of all sugar.
All right.
Okay. All right. So,
she's right.
Yeah.
I only have natural sugars. We'll get you to seltzer.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? 90 days. Just like you said, just like you're preparing for a presentation, 90 days. Set a timer, go by the day, go by the, and you get through it. And then all of a sudden you're not drinking Coke and it's gone.
90 days of no sugar.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. Sugar is like cocaine. It is as addictive as any of them. And so that first 30 days, that is discipline. Yeah, well, I mean, it's funny. When you're eating good natural sugars, you're okay. But like when you're taking this stuff that Warren Buffett owns, Coca-Cola, whatever, you're asking the billionaire guys, like they know that's addictive. Like you watch people that drink it and then you watch them do the things where like you put it on the card, it eats the paint off, or you put a tooth in there, it's gone by the morning. I'm like, guys, just so we know this isn't good for you, or just how they make potato chips. I'm like, these aren't things that you're going to live forever on. But more importantly, it's like when you do that, we were in an event and I don't know. Yeah, I think it was like literally a week before my show. So I'm pretty confident I brought my food in and literally picked it up and put it on like a 5-star bar. And I said, what's dinner? And I go, it's $100. I said, here's $100 for my dish, but I'm going to eat this no matter what. Like, don't fucking ask me, or we're going to go get the security, but I'm eating this food and here's $100, right? And she ate whatever she was eating. And Johnny, when I tell you it was comical, guys looking at me and there's two you can tell, they're just like well put together, successful guys on both sides. They're like, and they're with their wives or girlfriends or whatever. And they're like, bro, that was epic. Like, I can't believe this one. I said, listen, I'm a week out. I've been starving. I'm eating white fish and your food all smells amazing. And right now I'm imagining that I'm smashing your bread while I'm eating this miserable white fish and spinach. I said, but you know what? I didn't come here to be average. My goal is to smash this. But you know what? On a closing thought, it could be a quote, it could be something. What is something you want to leave the audience with today? And even what you said before, but a thought.
Closing thought?
Yeah. We talked about
big, bigger than big. So big it scares you. And always believe in yourself. Believe in yourself, dream big. And the third, get around winners.
Love it.
Because the more you hang around winners, the more you think like a winner.
I love that.
Too many people are hanging around people who are not inspiring and encouraging. I'd rather be alone.
Yeah.
I'd rather be alone with Eckhart, Tony, you.
You get the guys, right?
Yeah.
Guys, listen, today's podcast was an absolute banger. The pearls here are going to, the great thing about the podcast world, they'll live forever. There's going to be clips that are going to go out that are really going to hit. And I'm so excited, Eric. I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on today. And I know you moved your schedule around. And I just have to say, thank you.
And thank you for giving me the honor and the privilege to be with you on your amazing podcast.
Thank you.
Friend.
Guys, thank you so much for sharing. Look forward to your comments. Please like and share this. And the only way we grow is by you guys doing that. So thank you and God bless.